I'm Kimberly Miyazawa Frank. We're in Honolulu, Hawaii, beautiful sunny Honolulu, Hawaii. And we're at the Pacific Club, which is a beautiful business and social club for people, people who are members. And for me, community is really about how we treat each other and how we interact with each other. It is a geographic place, sometimes a designation, but within that, for me, it is really how we interact and how we care for each other. It is one of the primary commitments, and for this year it is a big commitment because I'm the president of the Junior League, but I joined in Cincinnati, so it's a national organization with chapters all around the world. I joined there a better part of 20 years ago, and through my career lived in all parts of the country, eventually made my way back here where I rejoined the Honolulu League. And for me, the Junior League is very aligned with the way I see community because we are very committed to impacting the interactions we have with people, impacting the community through interactions and changing that very thing by the work that we do. So the Junior League of Honolulu has a focus area now, which is the empowerment of women and girls. As you know, it's a member organization for women. And so it's a perfect alignment that our focus area is about empowerment of women and girls. And what we will do with that then is identify community needs and structure programs or events or projects around the community need. And our organization is based on training women to be leaders in the community through the execution of these projects. A girlfriend of mine dragged me in, and I went in kicking and screaming because my thought was a very narrow thought at the time, and it was, why do I need to join an organization to volunteer? I was doing a lot of volunteer work already, and I thought, why would I need to pay money to do what I'm already doing? And what I realized is when you have a group of like-minded people together, the collective impact you can make is a lot more significant than one by one by one. I do a lot of other volunteer work. I'm the first vice chair for the Honolulu Symphony. Symphonic music is not just about culture, it's also about education. It's about impacting math and science for our kids. It's about defining Honolulu as a world-class city. It's a lot of things. All of these organizations that I'm involved with, somebody asks me, and I usually have a passion for the organization, but not always. Even if I do have a passion, it's a learning curve. And then once I get in and jump in and become more familiar with the issues and the players, then invariably it becomes a passion. So another example might be the Coalition for Tobacco-Free Hawaii. I'm the incoming board chair. And in theory, I'm opposed to smoking for all the obvious reasons. But I was never really an activist or not really involved in that. And then someone asked me if I would join the board, and I've become more familiar with what Big Tobacco does and how they advertise and what impact that's having on our community, particularly young girls, and on our communities of color. And it's made me even more passionate. I have young children of my own, and I really want to make sure that people understand the long-term effects of smoking. My first volunteer experience was when I was still here in Hawaii as probably a middle school student. I volunteered at a local hospital. I was a candy striper. And then I volunteered at Easter Seals here. And then I was a special ed major. And then I eventually went to law school. And as I look back on all of those decisions, I realized that what was driving me was the desire to make a difference. I have young children. They often come with me to these different board meetings or different events. And so my daughter is already aware of the need to go to Junali, she calls it, Junali meetings. Are you going to a Junali meeting, and can I come? And she's very aware that that is part of the commitment, that you have to go to these meetings and work. So sometimes I take her down to the league office, and I was signing a bunch of letters just yesterday, or Wednesday, which was a holiday, and she went with me and she said, we're going to work at the Junali office. And so I think this is, these are the formative years for her, and she'll see that women make a difference, that women do all kinds of work in our communities. Last Saturday I took her to one of our Junior League projects, which was working with the residents of a Waianae homeless shelter, and just interacting with the other kids who were there, kids who live in the shelter and the adults who live in the shelter, and just being able to see that there are different kinds of people who look different, people who live differently, people who have different things. I think was a really, really powerful experience for her. And it was good perspective for me, because as we drove along the Leeward Coast, there are lots of makeshift houses, tents, shanty shacks and things like that. And what she said to me was, "Mom, look at all those tents. They're having a birthday party, and are we invited?" Because her perception of a tent is out here where you have a birthday party and a bouncy house. She didn't really realize that these are homeless people squatting on the beaches. And we didn't have that conversation. She's a little young for that. But we proceeded to the homeless shelter, where she did understand that these folks live in a big, mass housing where they have to go to a separate truck to use the bathroom and another truck to take a shower. And she did realize that it's very different, and there are different ways that people live. The Junior League as an organization is very old, over 100 years old. In Honolulu, we are quite old as well. We are celebrating our 86th year, which is very significant. It started in New York as an organization of younger women who were daughters of socialites, and that's why it was called the Junior League, because they were the junior in age. But they were interested in issues with tenement housing and the conditions in tenement housing in New York. Fast forward about 50 years, and we have the Junior League of Honolulu starting in very similar fashion, taking a look at what the needs in this community are, and sort of rallying around those issues and needs, and forming groups of women who had time, money, interest, and passion to address these issues. And we realize that many of the issues that we address are much bigger than we are. But we sort of take that starfish approach, the child walking on the beach covered with starfish and throwing one starfish back at a time, saying, "I know I can't save the whole beach, but I can save this one, and I can help this one." And it's sort of the approach we take with the Junior League too. It is my life, and it is what I do. It is how I define myself, and I can't imagine my life without the time or the flexibility or the or making volunteer activities a high priority. That whatever they do in the community, they can make a difference. That big or small, you think that you're the one giving when really you're the one getting. And I think that's really significant for people. And I live by a theory, or a bit of a mantra, that you give first, and maybe you'll get something. But what I know to be true through volunteering is you give and you definitely get in spades, and that is really exciting for me. This is not meant to be a political statement, but the president has called on all of us to get involved in our communities, to look after each other, to make a difference. And so now more than ever, it's really important that people jump in and get involved in any way they can. And it doesn't necessarily mean financial, but it does mean giving of whatever gifts and whatever they have, because each one of us has something, and the difference we can make is collectively, again, phenomenal, exponential differences.